Will White has done something the rest of us have only dreamed of doing. He wrote a few books, published them by himself, and the success has been amazing. I have heard nothing but good things about this series, and so I decided it's time I take a look. So I jumped into Unsouled. Is it worth all the hype? This old man is going to let you know. It's not very common that I have a book recommended to me so consistently, but the success of Will White's Cradle series is undeniable. I've had so many people recommend it to me that I decided it's time for me to jump in. I can only jump in on the ground floor though, so I started with book 1, Unsouled. My expectations were sky high, and I have to be honest, for me this became a tale of two different books. At first, I was supremely overwhelmed by all of the jargon and Will White's attempts to establish his magic system. There's all kinds of terminology that I wasn't familiar with, and lots of different things like clan names and cultures of the characters in the plot and all kinds of stuff. Additionally, there's a bigger story at play here. While the main story focuses around the main protagonist, Lyndon, and his journey to become a great martial arts master. It's not called martial arts in the series, but for our purposes, that's what we'll call it. But additionally to that, we see this overarching theme of some like godlike creatures, maybe? I don't know. And I imagine more of that is revealed later on in the story. But my point is, all of that was thrust upon me right at the beginning of the story. And I'm not going to lie, there was lots of times where I thought, oh my gosh, I'm never going to figure all this out. Maybe that's my old man brain. Maybe a lot of people love that. But for me, there was so much coming at me all at once that it really, really caused me a lot of problems. And I had to slow down and reread several big chunks of the book. Not that that in and of itself makes it a bad book, but it is something to be aware of. There were also some grammatical problems in the book, kind of consistent throughout, which caused me a little bit of trouble, where I'd have to go back and read pages. Things where Lyndon may be fighting an opponent and the sentences would read, the opponent threw a punch at Lyndon, and then we'd start a new paragraph, and then it would say, it would just say, he fell. And I didn't know whether they were talking about Lyndon or whether they were talking about the person who was throwing the punch. It became a little confusing, and so that happened consistently, especially in the first half of the book. Let's talk a little bit about the story. The story revolves around Lyndon, a young teenage boy who lives in a remote area somewhere in kind of like a not quite monastery, but in his tribe, people gain power through using their madra, whatever that is. I imagine that that's probably a term that I should know, but I don't. But it's like an energy source. But Lyndon has a problem. His soul is not tethered very well to this madra, or something. I'm not exactly sure of the details, but it does make sense. Lyndon can't do the same things that his peers can do. As a result of this, Lyndon is kind of shamed by the rest of his tribe. He's looked down upon. And really, as a teenager, as a young teenager, he's not even as strong as some of like the 10-year-olds in his tribe. And so he's constantly compared to them. He's constantly made to battle against them, and he usually fails. But one of the things that Lyndon has that the rest of his tribe does not is ingenuity and persistence and perseverance. He doesn't give up. He finds lots of alternative strategies to win some of these battles and to solve some of his problems. Overall, he's a super likable character, and you're cheering for him the entire book. It's double easy to cheer for him because he's treated really poorly by his tribe, even by his father. Not necessarily abused or anything like that, but everyone expects so little of him and they kind of chastise him that it's easy to root for him because he's the underdog. And that becomes one of my problems with the book, actually. It's so easy to root for Lyndon, and every choice he's making is a choice between doing the thing that you want him to do and doing the thing that you know he shouldn't do. Given circumstances where he can do something for himself or do something to help the tribe, he chooses himself because the tribe's not been very good to him. And he does hold some allegiances to the tribe, but it's easy to see why he would make those decisions. And so in a lot of books, we see these really tough decisions that characters have to make. We don't see very many of those tough decisions in this book. It's usually pretty straightforward. But I will say the back half of the book becomes really, really enjoyable. The action kind of picks up steam and it becomes a little bit of a thrill ride. We get to see Lyndon use his ingenuity to solve some big problems. He impresses some people and frustrates some others. We also get to see him be really brave and make big decisions on where his allegiances lay. And we see him also figure out how, even though he's unsouled, even though he's unable to use magic the same way everyone else is, we get to see him adjust some stuff to maybe make it so he will become really powerful someday. So overall, I wanted to love this book. And I didn't love it, but I did like it. And I really, really, really anticipate that the future installments of this series will be even more enjoyable. And so this is a world I will revisit. And I know this series has become absolutely beloved by fans and critics alike. And so I look forward to taking that journey, one book at a time. So if you found anything in this video helpful, I really hope you would consider giving it a like and maybe subscribing to the channel. If you have comments on what you think about this book, I'd love to hear it. Please drop a comment below. If you'd like, you can see my written review on Goodreads. There's a link for that below. Also, if you consider following me there, you can see what I'm reading and what videos I'll be making here in the near future. I'll be back next week with a new review, and I can't wait to see you then.